When Elvis announced, "You'll think you can sing better than me," to 30,000 people in Texas, they took it as a challenge. What followed was the longest, loudest, and most competitive musical battle in concert history. It was June 3rd, 1976, at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, and Elvis was feeling invincible. He'd just delivered a show-stopping performance of Suspicious Minds that had 30,000 Texans on their feet, screaming for more. The energy in that massive dome was electric, and Elvis was feeding off it like rocket fuel. As the applause died down, Elvis walked to the edge of the stage, sweat glistening on his forehead, his iconic white jumpsuit catching the stage lights. He was in one of those cocky, playful moods that made him dangerous, the kind of mood where Elvis Presley thought he could take on the world and win. That's when he made the challenge that would go down in concert history. "Hold on, Texas," Elvis called out, his voice booming through the Astrodome sound system. "Before we continue, I got a question for y'all." The crowd quieted down, eager to hear what the king had to say. "You'll think you can sing better than me." The response was immediate and overwhelming. 30,000 Texans, a people known for never backing down from a challenge, erupted into a roar that shook the entire Astrodome. "Yay, you bet. Try US. Bring it on, Elvis." Elvis grinned that famous crooked smile and held up his hands for quiet. "Well, well, well," he said, his voice dripping with confident amusement. "Sounds like we got ourselves some confident folks here tonight. Tell you what, let's find out who can really sing in this place." The crowd went wild again, sensing something special was about to happen. "Here's how this is gonna work," Elvis announced. "I'm gonna sing a line, and y'all are gonna sing it back to me. But here's the catch, you gotta sing it louder than me. Think you can handle that, Texas?" The answer came in the form of the loudest yes in Astrodome history. Elvis started with something easy. "Love Me Tender." He sang the opening line in his usual style, smooth and controlled. "Love me tender, love me sweet." Then he pointed to the audience, and 30,000 voices responded, "Love me tender, love me sweet." The volume was incredible. The sound of 30,000 people singing in unison created a wall of noise that was both beautiful and overwhelming. "Not bad, Texas," Elvis said, clearly impressed but not ready to give up. "But let's see if y'all can handle something with a little more power." He launched into Hound Dog, singing the famous opening line, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog." The audience response was immediate and thunderous. "You ain't nothing but a hound dog." The sound was so loud that Elvis actually stepped back from his microphone, his eyes wide with surprise. "Damn, Texas," Elvis laughed. "Y'all don't mess around." But Elvis wasn't ready to concede defeat. This was Texas, and everything was bigger in Texas, including egos, and Elvis Presley had one of the biggest egos in the world. All right," Elvis said, pacing across the stage. "Y'all got some lungs on you, I'll give you that. But let's see how you handle the high notes." He moved to the piano and started playing It's Now or Never, building up to the song's famous climactic high note. "It's now or never, come hold me tight." When he got to the big finish, Elvis hit that soaring high note that had made him famous, his voice filling every corner of the Astrodome with pure power. The audience's response was immediate and stunning. 30,000 people attempted that same high note, and while not everyone could hit it perfectly, the combined sound was incredible. Like a massive choir reaching for the heavens, Elvis stood at the piano, shaking his head in amazement. "I can't believe what I'm hearing," he said into his microphone. "Y'all just made me sound like an amateur." What had started as a playful challenge was turning into a serious musical competition. Elvis realized he'd underestimated his audience, but his competitive nature wouldn't let him back down. "Okay, Texas, you want to play for real? Let's play for real." Elvis moved back to center stage and began the opening to Suspicious Minds, the song that had started this whole thing. "We're caught in a trap. I can't walk out." But this time, instead of waiting for the audience to respond, Elvis kept singing, turning it into a direct competition. He was singing as loudly as he could, pouring all his power into every note. The audience, however, was not intimidated. They sang along at full volume, matching Elvis note for note, word for word. The result was incredible. It sounded like Elvis was singing a duet with 30,000 backup singers. About 45 minutes into this impromptu sing-off, something began to change. Elvis started to realize that this wasn't about winning or losing anymore. The energy created by 30,000 people singing at full volume was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. Hold on, Elvis said, stopping the music. "You'll hear that?" The audience quieted down, listening. "That sound y'all are making needs. That's not just singing, that's something else. That's magical." Elvis walked to the edge of the stage, looking out at the sea of faces. "I've been performing for over 20 years, and I've never heard anything like what y'all are doing tonight. You're not just an audience anymore. You're a choir, you're musicians." Instead of continuing the competition, Elvis made a decision that transformed the entire evening. "You know what? Forget about trying to out-sing each other. Let's make music together. Real music." He turned to his band. "Boys, let's try something we've never done before. Let's see if we can create something beautiful with 30,000 voices." What followed was unprecedented in concert history. Elvis began conducting the audience like a massive choir, dividing them into sections, teaching them harmonies, creating arrangements on the spot. "Everybody on the left side of the dome, you're going to be the bass section. Sing this doo-wop she-bop, doo-wop she-bop." 15,000 voices on the left side of the Astrodome began singing the bass line. "Right side y'all are the melody. Follow me, love me tender, love me true." The other 15,000 voices took up the melody. The result was breathtaking. The Astrodome had been transformed into the world's largest recording studio, with Elvis as the conductor and 30,000 Texans as his choir. As the evening progressed, Elvis moved into gospel music, the genre where his voice truly soared. He started with "How Great Thou Art," and the audience response was immediate and spiritual. The sound of 30,000 people singing gospel music in unison created an atmosphere that was more like a religious revival than a rock concert. People were crying, raising their hands, feeling something deep and powerful. Amazing Grace followed, with Elvis teaching different sections of the audience, different verses, creating a complex layered performance that would have made any church choir jealous. "This is what music is supposed to be about," Elvis said between songs, his voice thick with emotion. "This is about people coming together, sharing something beautiful, lifting each other up." What was supposed to be a 90-minute concert had already stretched to 2.5 hours, but nobody wanted it to end. Elvis was having the time of his life, and the audience was creating music like they'd never imagined possible. They worked their way through Elvis's entire catalog, but each song was transformed by the massive choir. "Can't Help Falling in Love" became a communal declaration of affection. "Jailhouse Rock" turned into a massive party anthem. "Peace in the Valley" felt like a prayer for the whole world. "Y'all realize what we're doing here?" Elvis asked during a brief break. "We're proving that music doesn't belong to just one person. Music belongs to everyone who feels it, everyone who sings it, everyone who lives it. As the evening wound down, Elvis decided to end with something special. He asked the audience to suggest a song, niche song that they could all sing together. Thousands of different songs were shouted out, but one voice rose above the rest, the Star-Spangled Banner. Elvis smiled. "You want to sing the national anthem? All of us together?" The response was overwhelming. 30,000 people wanted to close this incredible evening by singing their country's anthem together. What followed was the most moving rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner in sports or entertainment history. 30,000 voices singing in unison, led by Elvis Presley in the Houston Astrodome. Grown men were crying, veterans were saluting. Everyone felt connected to something larger than themselves. When the song ended, the silence lasted for several seconds before exploding into the longest-standing ovation in Astrodome history. People didn't want to leave. They didn't want this magical evening to end. Elvis stood on stage, looking out at the audience with tears in his eyes. "Texas," he said, "when I challenged y'all to outsing me tonight, I thought I was going to teach y'all a lesson about who the king really is. Instead, y'all taught me something much more important." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Y'all taught me that there's something bigger than being the king. There's being part of something beautiful with other people. Tonight, we weren't performer and audience. We were all just people who love music, sharing that love together." The Houston Astrodome Singoff became legendary among Elvis fans and music historians. Bootleg recordings of the evening circulated for years, treasured not just for Elvis's performance, but for the incredible sound of 30,000 people making music together. The evening proved several things: that audiences could be active participants in creating music, not just passive consumers; that Elvis's greatest strength wasn't his voice alone, but his ability to connect with people, and that sometimes the most beautiful music happens when everyone sings together. For Elvis, the sing-off was a revelation. He'd discovered that his real power wasn't in being better than everyone else, but in bringing out the best in everyone else. "That night in Houston changed how I think about performing," Elvis said in interviews afterward. "I realized that my job isn't just to sing for people, it's to help people discover the music inside themselves." Elvis began incorporating audience participation segments into all his future concerts, always remembering the night when 30,000 Texans proved that sometimes the best way to win a challenge is to change what winning means. The story of Elvis's Sing-Off Challenge reminds us that competition can become collaboration, that individual talents are magnified when shared with others, and that the most powerful music happens when everyone participates. It also shows us that sometimes the best way to connect with people isn't to prove you're better than them, but to discover what you can create together. On June 3, 1976, Elvis Presley challenged 30,000 Texans to a sing-off, confident that the king would emerge victorious. Instead, he discovered something much more valuable: that music is at its most powerful when it belongs to everyone. The sing-off lasted 2 hours, included dozens of songs, and transformed the Houston Astrodome into the world's largest choir. But more than that, it proved that the greatest performers aren't the ones who outshine everyone else. They're the ones who help everyone else shine. Elvis may have started the evening as the king, but he ended it as something even better: a conductor of joy, a facilitator of magic, and a reminder that the best music happens when we all sing together. If this incredible story of competition becoming collaboration moved you, Make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of bringing people together through music. What's the most amazing group singing experience you've ever been part of? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the moments when music unites us all.